So this unit, almost everything we do is going to be very formula driven. And so it'll be important for you to know how to use the formulas, what the variables stand for, and then how to do the math behind the formula. So we're going to start with something familiar, circumference. Circumference is just the distance around the circle. It's also the perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around a polygon. Circumference is the perimeter around the circle. You can find the distance around a circle. So circumference, C, is equal to 2 times pi. Remember that pi is 3.14. We prefer you use the pi key on your calculator for it to be more accurate, since pi goes on forever and ever. So it's 2 times pi times r, where r is the radius. You can also use pi d. D stands for diameter, which the diameter is twice the radius. And so 2r is d. That's why you can just use pi d instead. So it kind of depends on what you have. Then in the last unit, we talked about arc measure. Well, the arc measure was how many degrees of the circle is it? Well, this time I want the length. I actually want to know how long, if I walk on that circle, how long am I going to walk? How far am I going to walk? So you use this formula. So notice that this red arc is a portion of the whole distance around. Well, the whole distance around, all the way around, is the circumference. And so it's a part of the circle, right? And so that arc, that red piece, is this much of the angle of the circle. Well, it's that much out of 360. It's the part over the whole of the circle of the degrees, right? Theta is just the variable, right? It's just the angle divided by 360, because there are 360 degrees total. So it's the degrees of the angle divided by the degrees total. And then x stands for the length of the arc. I want to know how long. Well, that is a part of the whole distance around 2 pi r. And so we have the part of the distance, the part of the length, over the whole length around the circle. So we'll just set up those formulas, and you just use those every time. So if I'm given this circle, number 1, I want circumference. You just need to be in the habit every time you're solving a problem like this. As soon as you decide what you need to write down the formula. So circumference is 2 pi r. So I look up here at my picture, my radius is 4. So circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. So you would type that in on your calculator. Well, right now, first, look at this. I can do 2 times 4, and that's 8. So it may say in terms of pi, and in terms of pi would be 8 pi. Then you just do 8 times pi, and you get 25.1. So all the way around the circle would be 25.1 meters. Now, if I want to know just the length of AB, so I just want to know how far this much of it is. Well, if you look at that, look, that's 90 degrees. That's 1/4 of the circle. So let's use the formula first. It's 90 degrees out of 360 degrees. It's 90 degrees out of 360 degrees. And that equals x, which is what I'm looking for. I'm going to call this x. That's what I'm looking for, over 2 times pi times, and then the radius was 4. Now, here's what you can do. You can do 90 divided by 360 times 2 pi times 4. You can just type that all in, all at the same time, because basically what you are doing is you're cross multiplying, but we can multiply both sides by that 8 pi, and it'll clear that fraction out and give us what our x is. So if you do 90 divided by 360 times 2 pi times 4, you get 6.28. Now I want you to see something, 6.28. Well, notice that this is 1/4 of the circle. If I take 25.1 and divide that by 4, you know what I get? 6.28. And so we're going 1/4 of the distance around. So this 90 over 360, notice what that is. If you reduce 90 over 360, you know what that is? 1/4. Okay, and so that's what's happening. It's just sometimes we don't use angle measurements that make that easy to do or easy to see. And so it's good to use the formula. So next one, circumference. Circumference is C is equal to, we've got our radius of 12. 2 times pi times our radius, which is 12. That's 24 pi. 2 times 12 is 24. And then 24 pi would be 75.4 meters. It's a length. Okay, then if I want the length of AB, circumference, remember that's all the way around the circle. Well, I don't want to walk all the way around the circle. I only want to walk this 60 degrees of the circle. So I want to walk 60 degrees of 360 degrees. So how far is that if the entire distance is 2 times pi times 12, or 75.4. So you do 60 divided by 360 times 2 times pi times 12, and you get 12.6. Okay. Now, last one. Now, notice this time I want the bigger piece. So first circumference, that's all the way around the circle. So first we're going to find all the way around. How far is it all the way around? So circumference is 2 times pi times r. R is 8. That's 16 pi if I were to ask you for it in exact, or you can do 2 times pi times 8 on your calculator, and you get 50.3. Now this time, look at what I want. I want a CB. So I want to go the long way. A to C to B. I want to go all the way around the long way. Well, if the little piece is 60 degrees, the big piece has to be 300 degrees because altogether it's 360. So I want to go 300 degrees of the 360 degrees. So the question is, how far is that then from 16 pi, or 50.3. The reason I'm not using the 15.3, here's what this is. The reason I'm not using the 50.3 is because I rounded it. You can, it's fine, it'll come out, but it's better to not use rounded answers when you're finding them. So do 300 divided by 360 times 2 times pi times 8, or 16 pi, and you get 41.9. Now, see, look at this. I mean, that makes sense, right? When I walked 60 degrees, look at how these two are related. See, 60 degrees is 1/6 of 360. Well, 1/6 of 75.4 is 12.6. But this is 5/6, right? I'm going a whole lot more. So they should be closer to each other because I walked a whole lot more. So you can look at these and see what makes sense. The last one, what is the radius of the circle if the circumference is 50.27? Okay, the circumference is 50.27. So as soon as you read the word circumference, write down the equation, 2 pi r. Okay, so then if that's 2 pi r and I know the circumference, then I'm going to plug in, substitute 50.27 is equal to 2 times pi times r. Now here's where you have to be careful. I need to solve for r. So I need to divide by 2 pi and divide by 2 pi. Now this is good, but here's what's going to happen. You're going to type it in on your calculator, 50.27 divided by 2 pi, and it's going to be wrong. Okay? So what you have to remember to do is put it in parentheses. We have to divide by 2 pi. If you don't put it in parentheses, it's going to divide by 2 and multiply by pi. Okay, so when you do this, do 50.27 divided by 2 pi in parentheses, and you get 8. Radius equals 8. Now, there's another way to do it. You could do this, 50.27 is equal to pi d. And see, then all you have to do is divide by pi first, right? So 50.27 divided by pi is 16. So 16 is the diameter, but I asked for the radius. So then I have to divide the diameter by 2 to get the radius. So you kind of have to do some extra little steps. So you just need to see which one makes the most sense to you. I think most people use 2 pi r. You just have got to remember to do 2 pi in parentheses, or you could do 50.27 divide by 2 and then take that answer and divide that by pi. So you could do it in 2 steps there if you want to. Either way, whichever one you choose, you end up with the radius is 8. So it is extremely important that you pay attention and know how to use these formulas. And they'll be listed on your formula chart, and it'll say circumference, and you can go get it. And circumference is the distance around the circle. Arc length is just that portion. What's the distance? What's the length of that portion of the circle?